Good morning, friends. Enjoying people signing in and saying hello to one another here in the chat. Trying to resolve for myself some little technical issues. But glad to see everyone. I think I lost some of the early chat hellos, but good to see you. Samantha, Jamie, Lana, Leslie, Alice, Joyce, welcome. And many others. So yeah, welcome. I'm David Laurie. Let me just let me change my name here so you can see who's sitting in for Gil this week. There. Good morning, everyone. Good day. Welcome. So we'll begin as we begin with a sit. And but let me set up the sit by telling you what I intend to share this week. I'll share this week a teaching referred to as the 5 faculties, sometimes the 5 spiritual faculties. And this week, I'm going to think of them as I share this teaching as the 5 divine faculties, another way to think of them. And a particular spin I enjoy is to think of them as 5 human divine faculties. These are aspects of our sort of inherited capacity to be present and to be free. And there's no chance that in these various years of teaching this 5-weekday program that Gil has not also shared these teachings. And you'll hear echoes of Gil's teachings, but one of the wonderful things about sitting in for Gil is the opportunity to share Gil's teachings for each of us. Ying last week, myself this week, others of Gil's students in the coming weeks, refracted through the prism of our own practice and our own experience in life. And so these will be familiar teachings, but they'll have a particular flavor. I'm going to make a point of sharing some of the ways that Gil's approach to these 5 faculties has shifted over time. That's sort of my teaser that toward the end of a brief Dharmette, after we finish sitting, I'll share some of what I take to be ways that Gil has come to appreciate these teachings in a new light in the last few years. So the 5 faculties, the 5 spiritual faculties, the 5 human divine faculties, beginning today with the confidence that grows as our practice deepens. And it's in specific aspects of the practice that we can attune ourselves to the confidence that the practice provides us in life and our confidence in being in the practice. I'll say more about that after we sit and after we dedicate the merit of our practice together. I'll guide only briefly and only lightly, but find yourself into your meditation posture, whatever that is. And no matter what posture of the various postures that we can adopt for the meditation, we seek to find balance in the posture. Any posture and all postures that enable us to be here, fully present, alert, and awake, and at the very same time, relaxed, receptive. Any posture that allows us to balance our attention between effort and allowing is a legitimate posture. And as we perhaps bring our eyes down and close our eyes fully, if that feels safe and comfortable for us, we can notice a natural rebalancing that happens. In each of the 5 faculties we'll explore this week, I'll emphasize that these are capacities within. We're not reaching outside ourselves to acquire something that we don't already have. What we're doing is paying attention to capacities within, and as we pay attention to them, we cultivate them. As we bring our attention to them, they're strengthened. And we can do this as we first sit with just noticing balance taking place. Our eyes turn inward. And our attention comes from the visual external realm to the inner life. At the same time, we can feel the attention moving inward and downward, sort of from the head to the heart, from the head to the heart to the body. And we can, by bringing our attention to the breathing, we can notice the natural equilibrium that the breath establishes for us. Right in the center of our being, the breath is balanced. I like that the breath is so confident in what it does, knows the right quantity of oxygen needed, the right quantity of carbon dioxide and other waste gases to expel. The breath doesn't concern itself with the future or the past. The breath just sits here. And by connecting our attention with the breath, we take on some of these qualities. Whenever we return our attention to the breathing, we reconnect with the natural balance in our experience. And again, as we connect with it, it strengthens. When we return attention to the breathing after the mind gets caught up in things, snagged by thought, planning, for looking forward to the day, review, if maybe the day is already passed, thinking about other people, thinking about ourselves, the natural field of the mind. Whenever we bring it back to the breathing, nothing's gone wrong. We didn't do anything wrong. In fact, each time we come back to the breath, there's an opportunity to strengthen the capacity to be here. So we can celebrate each time we come back, instead of perhaps judging that we shouldn't have, or we're no good at this, or it doesn't work. Just kind of let go of those kinds of thoughts and just feel quite happy and content to be able to keep coming back here. So as we come toward the end of this period of meditation, maybe once again we can touch in with that sense of rebalancing that happens when we direct our attention back to the center of things, back to the here and the now of our experience. We can do this by touching back in with the breathing, the sensations of just this in breath here, just this out breath here. We can be sure that this coming back to center is good. And we can reinforce this habit of mind, this ability to come back to complete presence, simply by noticing what it feels like when we come back to center. This is a pleasure of coming back home or coming back here from wherever the mind's gotten wandered off to or caught up in. This particular pleasure of return in the meditation, returning to equilibrium, returning to center, returning to ground, returning to home, the teachings encourage us to enjoy. It's an important signal to the brain and the being that there's a wholesome pleasure here in the meditation. So we can feel confident that this is a good place to come back to. Sometimes it's good and enhances the sense of return to bring a couple phrases to mind. Whatever's coming up in the practice for you, that's what's supposed to be coming up. We can trust the practice to lead us toward wholesome mind states and skillful action. There's nothing that's coming up that needs to be excluded or rejected. And you don't need anything more than what's right here, right now. We don't need to reach outside. We have sufficient right here inside our experience. Sometimes it's useful to use the phrase, I belong here. And we can share this sense of confidence with others simply by returning here. Gil sometimes points out that the world that we live in, the world around us, really needs people who can be confident in their direct experience, who can be settled, who can cultivate a peace of mind that can hold strong during moments of turbulence. So we can share the confidence we feel in the practice with other beings everywhere, wishing all beings well, wishing all beings safety and security, wholeness in body, comfort and contentedness in mind. May all beings know something of this sense of balance and home that we can experience in the meditation. May all beings be benefited by this practice. And may all beings be free. So welcome again, everyone. The view I have of you is the lovely greetings you share with one another in the chat. I appreciate everybody being here. And I see a bowing emoji, so I return a bow. Yeah, so I want to talk about the 5 faculties this week, the 5 spiritual faculties, as they're frequently known, Panchendriya in Pali. And I had the wonderful experience of teaching the 5 faculties last week down at the retreat center in Santa Cruz, the Insight Retreat Center, with my wonderful colleague, Andrea Castillo. We taught together in Spanish for a week. And the notes I have to share about these teachings are in Spanish. I'm going to sort of just let them come into English as they do. But yeah, when you take these teachings and you bring them into practice, each time they have a lovely way of expanding to meet the circumstances of a particular place in one's practice. And what I think will come forward this week as we talk a little bit about each of these 5 faculties is the way in which their innate capacities within each of us, and possibly in all beings, and that we cultivate them by bringing attention to them. This I find really reassuring and quite a gift of practice, that we don't have to look outside. We don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to be any different. The capacities we have to be fully awake are right here and always available. We may not see them clearly. We may not be as aware of them as we can in practice. And that's what we do when we explore them as teachings and bring them into the meditation. The first of these faculties is Sada, which I like to translate, following Gil, as confidence. Also like the word trust. And what I wanted to bring attention to in the guided meditation today, and I was a little thrown by some of the challenges that I was having with the IMC YouTube account. I think we wrestled and sharing the Dharma one today. In the guided, part of what I hope to point to is that it's in our direct experience of the breath, of the being here now, that we can have confidence. There's a lot where it's as soon as the mind starts adding judgment, for example, around having the mind get caught up in something else, as soon as the mind gets caught up in adding extra to our experience, preference, or wanting something different, or trying to push something away or exclude something from experience, this shouldn't be here, this shouldn't be happening. As soon as that starts to happen, we sort of lose contact with direct experience. That is our primary experience, the things that arise in our experience before we add stress to them, before we get caught up in them. In that direct experience, we can have absolute confidence. And that's one of the reasons we keep going back there in the meditation. And it's not important that we're not there all the time. The practice isn't about hanging on with, by our fingernails to the breath. It's about coming back to the breath over and over again. This sense of return, the sense of rebalance, the sense of refreshment and pleasure that come from coming back to here and now. That's the manner in which we remind ourselves of this innate capacity to be here. And as we come back each time and we reconnect with direct experience, our confidence can grow. Oh, this is what's happening now. And we can start to feel that what's happening now is what's meant to be happening in the practice. It's not supposed to be otherwise. We don't have to exclude anything that comes up in the meditation, practically none of which is random, as being not appropriate here. The things that come up and the things even that draw us away, those things want attention. They want the gift of our attention. And once given the gift of attention, they ease up. We can come back to center. We'll talk about that particular aspect of the 5 faculties later in the week. So what does it mean to have confidence or trust in direct experience? I like to think that the things that draw us away from the here and now, these are things that they have sort of a destabilizing effect. They knock us off center. They take us away from the natural balance that we can find within. They distract us from a wholesome quality of mind and a way of knowing experience that is naturally free. And they can, in various ways, make us feel either that we don't belong in the practice, or we don't even belong in our own experience, or that we don't have what it takes to be free. And to the extent that we engage in those kinds of thought patterns, we sort of diminish our own capacity to be confident in what we can know directly in our experience. So when we return to here and now, we reconnect with the experience of this moment. It's like this now. We can use phrases to remind ourselves that this is the way it's supposed to be in the practice. This practice that's developing right now is the one that is the right one, the correct one, the skillful one. And we can trust what we come to know in the meditation. I think the particular thing I'd point to today, and this can be a little challenging for people perhaps who come from some of our backgrounds, certainly for me, is that something I tried to point to in the guided to this morning, is just that we can trust the pleasure that's there in the meditation. The pleasure of the meditation, which the Buddha encourages us to cultivate. The Buddha says in various places that this pleasure of meditation, this pleasure that comes from connecting with our direct experience of the here and now, this pleasure is to be cultivated. This pleasure is not to be feared. This pleasure is part of the path. And that's because the pleasure of the meditation doesn't depend on anything outside us, doesn't depend on external conditions, but rather is something that comes from within, and something as a result that we can trust, that we can have confidence in. And as we become more intimate with our experience, we can lean into that pleasure that accompanies the return to here and now. And there's actually something quite important going on in the brain here. The brain uses pleasure and and pain as important signals. And what we're doing is retraining a bit the brain, or we're encouraging the mind to notice that, it's pleasurable to be here now. And as we do that, we reinforce that important signal in the mind that this is a place to find home, that this is a place we can trust. And this can be challenging because sometimes we quite understandably and rightfully, we're hesitant to take pleasure in things because sometimes it leads us astray. Sometimes we find that we're caught up in seeking pleasurable experiences, peak experiences, in ways that are harmful to ourselves or others. And so this is an important reminder that this experience in the meditation of making direct connection with our lives, with the here and now of our experience, whatever's going on, trusting that the practice brings us into the experiences that need attention. This particular signaling does point in a wholesome direction. And I promised at the outset that one thing I would do in these 5 days is reflect on the way most recently Gil has captured these 5 faculties. This faculty, this internal capacity, this ability to be present in this way, this first faculty, is frequently referred to as confidence or trust or faith. And this is something that we're reminded as the practice develops. This direct experience is something we can have complete faith in, confidence in, trust in. The word that Gil has recently used to gloss, to characterize this faculty, is love. And it's a wonderful thing to recognize, as Gil does, that this ability to feel comfortable and confident, to have confidence, to have trust and faith in our direct experience of life, allows us to, that it in a sense is a form of love, and that it frees us up to share our love with others. When we're confident in what we experience, we can share it openly, share it freely, and it allows us to connect with others, and it allows us to get out of our own way in a way that allows us to be present for others. So this first faculty, this first inner resource, this first capacity of mind is to be comfortable and confident enough in our own experience that we are engaged in a form of deep appreciation for the simple ability to be present in our lives, intimate with our experience, and share that with others in the world. So as we go forward this week, we'll continue to look at each of these in a way that hopefully is very, really comes right out of the meditation that we engage in together, and that also connects with some of these recent, more recent ways that Gil characterizes these 5 spiritual faculties, or 5 human divine faculties, as I'm characterizing them this week. All right. Best wishes to everyone for the day, and I look forward to connecting again tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, we'll return to the idea of balance. The second faculty is energy, virya, and we'll take a look at how energy plays an important role in the meditation practice, and also in how we can balance our energies throughout our engagement in daily life. So take care. Till tomorrow morning.